The first one is Jim Hawkins, KF4RX. We want you to tell what you have.
Okay, so you want me to use this wireless microphone? Okay. Well, I was going to show you all my little, I built the dummy load and attempted to build, it's still under construction, the watt meter there. So here's the dummy load, and that's a handy thing to have around the house anyway, even if you don't have a watt meter to plug on top of it. I got stymied on the watt meter by the little banana plugs that screw in the bottom of here, plug in to the top of there. But I'm pleased to report that I have some on the way, and hope soon to have those. You know, if you've done, you know, there's probably 3 or 4 of you in this room that have built this and finished it. You know? But anyway, you build one of these, it's kind of a work in progress. When it first comes out, and then people will add to it. And, so I had ordered the parts, and then there was one gentleman, and I meant to look up and see who it was so I could credit him. But he designed a 3D printed face for the box that's got a little battery shelf and a recess for the OLED display that just fits perfectly. I've got it upside down there, but anyway, so you know, I downloaded that code and gave it to a friend of mine that's got a 3D printer, and he knocked that out, and it fits the box perfectly, it fits the parts perfectly, and it just fascinates me that you can even do something like that. So that's the dummy load and the watt meter. Because I didn't have everything finished, I just grabbed a couple other things too. I built one of these 49-to-1. I'll call it a ballon. It is a ballon. You know, I went 2 years ago to Steve Ellerson's presentation at the Tech Fest, and that's where that came from. And I built a little power distro from the Ham Radio Workbench. Do any of you all listen to that podcast? Yeah, it's one of my favorites. HamRadioWorkbench.com, and so that's a lot like a rig runner or something, but I built it for $25. And I guess that's enough for me. Okay, Randy, give it to somebody else.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is going to be Vaden, NN4K.
Okay, good evening. This is a transceiver, single band in Morse code, and it's called a made by QRP Labs. The model's a QCX CW transceiver. Like I said, it's set up for 40 meters. I've never built one like this before. This has a circuit board, and I didn't count the parts, but you have to be careful that you identify them correctly, put them in the holes, and make sure you get a good solid connection. And at the end, when you plug in the power, cross your fingers. Well, my good luck was I crossed my fingers and I had display power, but no data. Uh-oh. Where did the data go? So troubleshooting was visual. I turned the board over, I looked. I had skipped one of the installation instructions, and there were 2 little components that needed to go in to complete the circuit. I soldered them in, plugged it in again. The meter, or the LCD came alive, and I could see the data. So I thought, wow, this is cool. Among other things you do is you calibrate it. It's got a receiver. It needs to be aligned. And all of these things, the test equipment is all built into the package. You don't have to have anything external. I do have an ohm meter, which was handy when I was checking resistor values. But otherwise, continuity and resistor values is all I check. But when you do the alignment, it's step by step by step. And there's some resistors that you have to tweak over and over and over again to get the null value. It's a bar graph on the display. But once you've done it, you're ready to listen. So I switched it on to see what I could hear. And, you know, at that moment, nothing. Well, I thought, uh-oh. So I did what I thought was the simple troubleshooting. I just checked my little coax connectors, and all of a sudden I found where the problem was. It was in the coax cable, not the kit. So when I got it going, I started turning the receiver control. I covered all of 40 meter CW band, and I was picking up signals. Of course, I was using external antenna. I brought an antenna here, hoping I could hear it tonight, but this is like a Faraday cage. Not going to hear anything. I think I probably put maybe 30, 35 hours into this over a period of days. I didn't try to do a marathon beginning to end. The parts are small, my eyes couldn't hold focus after a while. So I used the jeweler's hood with the magnifying lens, and my favorite tool turned out to be these sharp-pointed angled tweezers for placing parts on the board. I'm not going to go into theory of operation. That's probably above my pay grade. But I can tell you the thrill of hearing signals as a result of all this stuff, winding toroids. That scared me off at first, and that kit sat on my desk for months because I didn't know what that was going to be like. I could do it again now with no concern. 1 minute, all right. So the final thing was, does it transmit? I tuned a frequency on here, and then I set the frequency on my Yaesu transceiver on the desk. I held the key down, the S meter went to over S9. So I've got output. Now, this is pretty fresh, so I've got to start making some contacts. But for QRP, if you want to do SOTA, POTA, and all these other things where you're out in the wild, this is an excellent little package, and it's not heavy, and it's easy to operate. So thank you for your attention. Oh, you want to hear what? I think I can do this.
How much does it cost?
I was trying to demonstrate it here. $49 for the package. That includes the board, not the battery, not the key or headphones, but just the board. The board is manufactured and shipped from Turkey. It does come, or enclosures are available, and a lot of guys who are going to take them out in the wild like to have the enclosure for the protection. But I kind of like to look at the parts. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Kennedy.
Some of y'all might be aware that over, I think for the last 4 years, with Ralph Pickwick being our lead man, we've done an operation with the STEM program with Mason Elementary School. And basically, we're teaching them about Morse code and about wireless radio. And this last year, I did this diorama arrangement and all to be able to use with the kids because they get so excited about it. So we start the program teaching them about Morse code and talking about telegraph and telegraph poles. And of course, the kids don't even know what a telegraph pole is. They've never seen one. So we come show them that too. We start with, like I say, with telegraph and wired communications, and take it from there into wireless communications, and particularly with the Titanic. Every kid in the world knows what that is. They recognize the Titanic, and they get really excited about it. But we rigged this up and used this as the first time last year, and with the kids, and trying to show them how the telegraph system works. And I had two sounders, which I won't put this one back, which actually transmits over the telegraph line here. And the kids asked, he said, well, is electricity really going down there? And I said, yeah, but it won't hurt you. And I'll reach over and touch it, and jump and holler, and they fall on the floor. But I don't know, it brought the letters that we got from the kids here a couple of meetings ago. And more than anything else, they seem to be impressed by Morse code and by this. And they love the touchy-feely things. But we got our first complaint this year from the school after doing it 4 years. And the complaint was that kids said they didn't have enough time for us to spend with them. And wondered if this next year, if we'd spend 2 days out there. And Ralph and Norm and Bill has helped us before, and Mike and a few others. So this next year, with the fifth grade classes, we're going to be spending 2 days there with each period, each class with about 30 kids, 25 to 30 kids coming in. And who knows, somewhere down the road there might be some new ham radio operators out of it. That's it.
Actually, I have 2 Go kits here. And the one on top is built using a rigid Pro Organizer kit that you would get at Home Depot. And down on the floor, there's a rigid toolbox cart. And the toolbox cart obviously goes with the Go box, providing power. It's got a Biono 30 amp battery in it. It's also got space for tools. Down there's an alpha antenna for HF. There's a fold-out mast in here, coax and so forth. And you can see that when you come up. As far as the Go kit itself goes, there's a Samlex power supply. This is a 5100 ICOM, a box I use for holding parts, signal link, an AV switch. When you get into using this type of a radio for both data and voice, you sort of need an AV switch to switch the mic back and forth. I don't know why. I'm going to shoot ICOM for not putting a data port on these modern radios. There's a control panel in the back, and obviously a whiteboard here for keeping notes and stuff, and a clock. 2 years ago at the Stone Mountain Hamfest, this won its category for a Go box. Now, if any of you are going to the Hamfest to present a Go box, a couple of things you need to know. Make sure that you got any loose part marked with your name and call sign. I think it was Greg Scarrett that mentioned doing that, and they look for that when they're doing the Go box competition. So you'll note that all my mics and loose parts have my name and call sign. Well, I needed something to put my HF radio in, and I tried and I prototyped. There's an intermediate size rigid box that's between this and the tool cart. It's like twice this height. I built a framework using PVC pipe, and for the life of me, I couldn't get the ICOM 7100, which is my HF radio, to fit within that framework and not cause a lot of stress on the power connector going out the back. It would have been really nice if I could have achieved it, because it's all stackable and snappable together on that cart. You just take off. So then I switched to the approach of going with a 4U, and as soon as I did that, I said, geez, there's enough space in the 4U to put a dual band VHF UHF radio. And so ICOM lost my purchasing dollars because it didn't have a data port in the back, and instead I went with a Yaesu Fusion radio on this. So if I want to run D-Star, it's on the 7100 side. If I want to run Fusion, it's on the Fusion side. And back inside the box, on top of an LDG antenna tuner, is a Cantronics TNC connected to that Fusion radio. And it's just absolutely great. I can run HF and dual man VHF, UHF at the same time, not have the TNC interfering with the HF communications. I really love that. So, what else can I tell you? My tablet I use for digital communications is a little ASUS tablet, and it runs off of a USB charger. Well, I put a USB 3.0 quick charge connector on the front. My ASUS tablet just absolutely loves that for its power source. So there is a power supply in here, another Samlex, it's a 35 ampere, that it powers the whole unit with no problems whatsoever, keeps my tablet charged. I didn't put a power gate in here. A lot of people like to put a power gate for switching between shore power and a DC battery source with no interruption of service. My idea of a power gate is a high voltage, high current, on, off, on, dual pole switch. So if I lose shore power, click, I'm on battery power. And so this Go box here is connected to my timeout signal.
1 minute.
And so the Go box is powering, the battery, the Biona is powering this Go box. So that's it. Any questions, you can see me afterwards. Just don't stare at the wiring mess I have in the back.
Thank you.
A couple years ago, I presented kind of a kit I put together of poles that I could use for HF on my vehicle. I would put a piece of conduit and a telescoping pool extension pole, put antennas on top of it, and I would tilt it up on the back of my vehicle. Well, I wanted something that I could put on the ground. Well, I have a question. How many hams does it take to put up a set of military poles? Okay. Well, I'm here to show you. You can do it with one.
One if you want it done.
So the key is pre-measurement. I put it up with the tripod. I bought the tripod. I didn't really need it. So I start at ground zero. I go out and I hammer a stake into the ground. I go out and hammer 3 stakes in the ground and lay the guy cords out accordingly. And no, I don't move this fast.
He's on the timer.
So I put the top ring on. That guy ring is what I use to get the 120 degrees. So you want the guy wires equal. So the guy ring tells me I take 10 paces out and I can set the stakes in. And then I just start assembling the poles. And you can see how fast they go together. Well, in real time it's a little slower. So then you could just muster it into position. The two of the guy wires will hold the thing in place, and you keep tension on the third one, and it's set. Now I didn't place this one because that was the brute force one. Now if I were to put other antennas on top and make it heavier, perhaps even a rotor, I would actually walk it up like this, set it in place, and tie off that guy. If I were to use heavier ones, heavier antennas, and perhaps even a rotator, I would probably use the 4-guy ring for the top. It was, in this case, it was 24 feet of military poles, and at normal speed, it took me just a little over 3.5 minutes, that's all. From hammering the stakes to getting it fully ready for operation. And that's for... We can go ahead and start this next little quick video. I wanted a way to be able to wind coax at an easy way. Can we hear that volume? Well, it was. So this is 110 feet of RG8 cable. And has anyone ever wound up this kind of cable? Well, when I do it, I like to walk slowly and let the coax drag behind me so I can give it that little twist, and it allows it to follow the contour of the winding. But when you don't have that luxury, you can see how it becomes kind of a mess if it won't untwist for you. Well, that took me over a minute, probably even longer if I'd have took my time and really tried to do it right. Well, plus it's got some weight to it. Well, here, I set the coax into an eyelet right there just to help hold it. And now I'm going to try and wind it. I'm going to time myself. background music. So it's not all together here. Back there I have the knob, but this is just a vice grip to hold it. And you can see it winds it very nice and neatly. Doesn't take long at all. And I had it on a bad workbench out in my yard, so it's a little wiggly wobbly. It's much better than that now. And that's the size, in just about 24 seconds. Actually less, because that took time to, is that it? Okay. And then to unwind it, wow, I mean, if anybody's ever had to unwind this stuff when we're out on field day, we have to kind of roll it out so we don't get the twists in it, so. Yeah, that's it. Well, I'm almost done. So to unwind it, when I based this off of a design that I saw where people were trying to wind their mic cords and at concerts and stuff. They had something similar. They had a turntable with PVC nubs that they would wind around, but then they would put a hat on top, another part on top when they wanted to take it off, because obviously it's going to wind at one diameter and get messed up. So obviously I got a new handle here, but when you wind it and you get it in your car, it kind of gets messed around. Well, it's not going to get messed around right now. And now it's kind of messed up. But if you wound it up on one diameter, you're not going to get it back on there. But now, since it's a tapered design, and I can just take off with it. And that's it. The final design, I'll probably cut this in half because I don't need it. The 150 feet of RG8's, not even quite the size of my forearm, so if I cut this in half and redo it, I could have 2 spoolers that I'll be giving to GARS.
Thank you very much.
So for any of you who have antenna parts or antenna tuner parts that are sitting on your shelf, and especially if you have a nice antenna tuner and you don't want to put it outside, because there was a time when we actually had rain, whatever that is. There was a 160 meter contest in February, and there was a lot of rain going on, so I just wanted to put an antenna tuner out for my inverter bell, put it in a plastic bag, keep it dry. So this is kind of what I came up with. I had the piece of wood just happened to be sitting around because my son, when he was playing baseball, I made him a target. And this was the spare piece of wood that I'd cut out. Made a great place to mount the hardware. Now with the antenna tuner, what I ended up doing, this coil, I could have gotten PVC pipe that was large diameter, but I'd have to buy 10 feet of it. It was cheaper to just go ahead and get 2 couplers smaller, and then I glued them together with PVC cement. So these are actually 2 different PVC couplers, you can see. And then to keep the spacing constant, I have twine that goes in between each of this is 20 gauge wire, and then I have twine in between each turn. So that way it'll keep it nice and even in space. And when I wound it, I also had a piece of like 12 gauge wire or a dowel that you can put underneath there to bump it up. So, I got Vanna White here, who's going to hold it for me. Cool. Oh, okay, I got you too. So you can see. So with this, I was able to bump this up because this is my intended place where I'm going to go ahead and strip back some of the outer jacket and then alternate it as far as where I actually tin it, and then even put some different pieces of wire on here so I can easily take a gator clip and change from one tap to the next, and then I can change the impedance matching of this particular tuner. Now the way I've got this thing set up right now, it's very configurable. I can have it as a series tune match, where I put the inductor and the capacitor, the variable capacitor in series. If I don't have enough capacitance, if I'm trying to run this on 160, well, lo and behold, I went ahead and put some high voltage mica capacitors, put some gator clips on it so I can put them in parallel. So instead of being a 700 or 500 puff cap, now it's a 700, 800, whatever I want to put on there. If it turns out I have maximum capacitance and it still isn't enough, I put this extra capacitor on the outside, flip it on there, and I've got another one in this plastic bag. And if I need more capacitance, a different value, then I just pop it on there as well. I do have another variable capacitor if I want to turn this into a Pi network. I didn't put it on here for this one because for the most part I didn't need it for what I was trying to do. But with this configuration, just by taking the gator clips off of the, and by the way, these are brass screws, so that way I've got good conductivity. And I can either have this where I've got the coax coming in this point, going through the inductor, coming to the antenna port, which is marked. And then I can either, I'll end up shorting the inductor out depending on how much inductance I need. And then, depending on whether I want the capacitor on the antenna side or the coax side, whoops, that one, this one side goes to ground, shunt to ground, but this can either go on the antenna side, I'm sorry, on the coax side or the antenna side, depending on what type of tuning that I need. So it's very configurable, junk parts. If I was going to go ahead and do this a little bit more again, I'd probably put a better SO239 connector that's mounted. Yeah.
What's that wax used for?
Actually, this is RTV compound just to physically hold it in place, so once I was done, that it wouldn't unravel. So I ended up putting RTV on either side, so it's something that is not conductive to RF. As well, because I would be sitting on the ground, I went ahead and took the base of the screws that would be hot and put electrical tape on there just to insulate it, so I could lay it on the ground and not worry about it shorting the ground.
About how many watts? Is that like QRP only or 100 watts?
Oh, I run 100 watts with this. No worries whatsoever. Very configurable. So if you have any junk parts in your desk, in your workbench, put them to use. Like I said, this is not something that I use every day, but I didn't want my good tuner being outside for that rain. So this was just something temporarily that I put up. Yes?
So if you went to the boneyard at Handfest and you found all those parts, how much are you out of pocket?
$5 maybe.
Which Hamfest would you go to?
I mean, I picked up capacitors like this for about $5. This you can wind yourself. You probably have this PVC sitting in your garage. And the rest of it's wire and rope and, I mean, the brass screws, you probably have those in your junk box. If not, Home Depot, Lowe's, you get them for a few bucks. Maybe $10 total, but not a whole lot of money. Okay.
Thank you all for being here. And tonight I want to show something. I got a couple quick questions to ask since it's a good crowd. And we've got mixed people here as far as old hands, new hands, in between, some left, what have you. How many, with the raise of hands, remember how many of you remember the good old time of vacuum tubes? Ooh, that's good. Okay. All right. And what was most of our radio equipment made from? Vacuum tube, right? Okay. Well, this was, I received my novice license in 1960. And this is a 40 and 80 watt, 40 and 80 meter, 50 watt CW transmitter. Uses a single 6146 and oscillator amplifier configuration. And it was from an article in the 1958 USP. And I built this thing not only since that was the first year I got my license. The only difference in the call letter then was there was a little N in between the K and the 8. But it's, my call letters I use now is still the same call, so that's going on 59 years. Okay, and we did this when I was in the 7th grade. I was 13 when I got my first license. I wanted to participate in a science fair. And of course, AM radio was my thing since I was about 10 years old. My brother and I both were in it. And so I decided to build this. And it is completely homebrew. The power supply big transformer here that weighs about 12 pounds. And the filter choke came out of television sets. And my brother and I, not having but small newspaper routes that didn't really pay very much, every trash day we'd comb the neighborhood for old TVs, and we'd strip them down for the resistors, capacitors, even sometimes the chassis. So all of this is made really from parts from other things, except for the chassis. Now, the chassis I also made in metal shop in separate frame. So it's truly homebrew. It does run about 50 watts output, which is really nice. It is crystal controlled. Although I have used over the years a QF1 Heathkit BFO that works quite well. But usually I use it with a single crystal. I had, of course, back in the 60s we had a thing called sunspots. They mention them nowadays, but they're not really there, I don't think. But in the 60s, it was amazing how the sunspots really made communications around the world. And it was about 3 months it took me to do work all states. And the same way with WAC, was like about 6 months. So this is something that still works. I fired it up the other day. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to take and turn the chassis over so you can see the underneath. It has a, anything like anyhow, it's for 40 and 80 meters. You can see a tank coil in there. And the other parts wasn't too hard to build. The only problem that I had with it was the current draw when it was keyed. The other drastic thing is, and a lot of the old timers or new timers might know about this, it has what is called cathode keying. And the key is connected to the cathode. It has 140 volts on it. So you learn to keep your fingers off your key. But we did that. I hope you enjoy seeing it and see some of the things you can even do now. Thank you.
So Dave, how much power did yours put out? 5 watts? 50 watts? Sounds better then. So we've got a lot of Go kits up here this evening, and the main reason I brought mine this evening was for advertising for next week's event. So come next week to get a lot more details on Go kits. So after going to Dayton for way too many times over the last dozen years or so, there's one vendor up there I saw, iPortable. And I kind of drooled over their cases. This case is my portable case. John's case over here is my portable. I corrupted him here this year. And they're kind of really nice. There's a lot of features on them. First of all, this one is, the higher one has dual speakers over here. So when you put radios inside the cases, that can have problems with the speakers firing in the right places. So this one has dual speakers. Over here on these also, they have front panel headphone locations, so you can plug your headphones into this. There's USB charging locations. You know, a couple of years ago that wasn't a huge deal, but today's environment, getting those phones charged and everything else becomes a pretty big requirement to have. Underneath that is a a 12-volt power connector, and also fuses, and what else is missing in there?
Anderson.
And the Anderson power poles, that's what's missing in it. So I configure these as, to a great degree, front connected cases. So I can actually power everything from the front on here. So at home when they're sitting in the rack, I'm bringing power in the front. This one doesn't have a power supply in it. Right now I'm actually plugged into the back. But there's a number of these cases available. We'll talk about some of them next week. So come on by next week and join us.
I actually brought 2. This is one I did a few years ago for my ID1, which is 1.2 gig. And I really wanted to focus on 1.2 gig data. So it's a 10 watt radio. It's not made anymore, but you can find them around. And I've got, you can't just, it has an Ethernet connector on it, so you can connect right to it and make it like a last mile type Ethernet link. What a lot of people would do to make it simpler is put a little router with it. And I've got one of the Linksys routers that runs on Linux. So it runs the, I can't think of it, went blank on the firmware that you replace it with. DDWRT, that's it. And this way I can do two things with it. I don't even have to physically connect to it, and I can connect to it wirelessly, Wi-Fi, or I can plug in, it's got a 4-port switch on the back. So it can either connect to an external antenna, a Yagi or something. There's a little power supply in the back here. It's a jet stream. I also have a little rig runner that's in there as well to separate, because this was on a shelf, and originally I had two 7-amp hour batteries in it, so it was totally self-contained. I've taken the batteries out because they go bad like they always do. And so I'm using it to store like the microphone, because this will run also 1.2 gig voice, FM voice, D-Star voice, or what's called D-Star DD or DD mode, or digital data mode. So I built this a few years ago, and it actually works pretty well. I got an idea from the last Homebrew show and tell from Mark on using a 7100 in here, which I had originally said was going to be my Go Kit radio. It originally was my HF mobile in my truck, and then I'm not really traveling out where HF doesn't mean much good anymore, traveling around. So I wanted to make it my Go Kit radio. So Mark had showed me a great idea about, the head on the 7100 normally leans back on the desktop. But in this situation, it works out great if you can somehow bring it up like this. Well, and then, as this guy said, I got corrupted at Dayton and ended up buying this case from my portable, which they make some really nice ones. They're very proud of them, but they should be, because they do have some really good features. Mine is the smaller of Ed's version, but it's a little deeper. So you do have a single speaker, you've got USB ports, you've got a headphone jack, it's got a cigarette lighter to take power off of, or the power poles for either power in or power out. They did a nice little feature by putting this little LED strip lamp on here, which lights the front very well, and it can be dimmed. That's real nice, and you have an accessory for a fan. And I just bought the inexpensive MFJ watt meter and hooked the light switch to it. You really don't need that. Now the 7100 body is here. Behind here is the LDG tuner. I think they call it the IT100 that works directly with the icon. And so I really don't need access to it because I can use the front panel tuner switch. So it's tucked back in there. Now I did put a signal link in here, but some of you that know the 7100 will probably say, well, why'd you do that? It's got a built-in sound card. It's really filling space right now. I don't really need it because it will run totally without that, but it's also an easy way to interface to it as well. I didn't get it quite finished. I thought, oh, I've got 3 weeks. I can get this done. I was working on it last night at 10 o'clock. What you can't see in the back, and David, you might want to go around to the back, I got one of these Chinese power supplies. It turns out Kyle became very familiar with them because they bought a solder robot and the power supply failed or it was configured wrong. But if you can see that back in there, I fabricated a little piece of angle where it will go to the back. And this is a 30 amp power supply. What do you think it costs? $20. And they seem to be pretty good. It's got several outlets on it, it's adjustable. So I run it up to 13.6. There's a couple of things I want to do on the back panel. I don't want to run my coax out the front, even though I've got a couple of places I could do that. So I'm just going to put a little strip, like take a 1U rack panel and cut it off about 6 inches long and put 2 bulkhead connectors on the top back corner. And that way I can close it up or I can have it open and do that. So this is my portable all band, kind of all mode go kit.
Okay, this started out as a evolutionary project, of course, like they all do. My goal was to have something I could carry. Can you hear me okay? Yep. That I could carry and not break my back, and that I didn't have to lean way out to pick up. So I was determined to make it all fit in a 4U case. So what I have in here is a 7100. I have a single link. I have a DR 7800 SCS Pactor modem, which also has a 1200 baud packet as well. And I have both hooked into the 7100 so I can switch instantly between the two. And I have a 2820 on this side over here, and the signal link is plugged into it. So I've got several choices. You can run all the sound card modes on 7100 plus Pactor. I chose to have a fairly upscale MFJ teletuner so that I could actually see the power, see the SWR. Then I didn't need to have a watt meter. Unfortunately, I ran out of room when it came time for the power supply. So, here's the power supply. Now what's inside is 30 amp power supply, 20 amp battery, Biono battery. This goes with me. I plug this into the generator, and it is I built this, it's a common mode filter for AC. Sorry about all that. I also have a DC common mode on the outside. So when I plugged my 2,000 watt generator, I got a lot of hash, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't working. Then it dawned on me that I needed to take this and plug it directly into the generator, and then 100 feet of antenna known as as wire, and I have number 10 wire. It's beautiful wire, but anyway, completely cleared it up. So it works great. So inside we have, sorry, this is, yeah. Inside we have a Epic power gate, so I can run solar charger off of it. It has a fraction of a volt loss on the management, so there's nothing lost in the charging of the battery. So anyway, then I decided that's an awful lot to put in one case. A lot of my deployments are 2 meter 440, so I built a second case. In this one I have the 5100 for D-Star and reflector agility. And then on the other side I have the Kenwood's D710, which does packet instantaneously without any problem. Also have a signal link plugged into the back of it, so I can do either sound card modes or the package without any adjustments. I wanted something that was totally, I didn't have to think. And it does have a built-in power supply. So, and then this is part of my, by the way, when I was up at the death race, we had set up from nothing. I ran the generator, and I ran half of the WinLink traffic through Pactor through my gateway. So when I'm out on deployment, a lot of times we need D-Star, and we need it on a different reflector than you'd normally have it on, like 4 alpha or 30 alpha. And all the repeaters.
1 minute.
Okay, almost done. All the repeaters pop back to 30 Bravo, so I carry my own little Zoom spot here, and I can put it on anything I want, and we run off of that. Anyway, that's it.
So, ham radio folks, we like to stay inexpensive. What if I told you you could have a, what if I told you could have a computer for your ham shack that costs $35? So enter the Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 3 with actually a daughter board on it. It's a Northwest Digital radio daughter board, which is able to, or HAT as they're sometimes called, it's able to connect to external radios through the DIN connector right here, which I'm pointing at, either one of these, and it has a built-in GPS, but that's actually not what I'm demoing today. I'm going to go ahead and take off the display here, just now that we've had a look at this, and show you the screen. So it was running the file system check, which took a little while. So this is a $35 computer. You basically just throw in your own keyboard, mouse, power supply, and in this particular case, I'm using a little battery pack as the power supply. This is a little 2200 amp hour power supply. So basically you can install the same sort of ham radio applications like FL Digi, WSJTX, JSA call, if any of you have used that. And let's where my mouse is out here. This is a little hard to see from this angle. Okay, so for one example here, you can get FL Digi, and this will take a second to load up and display on screen here. Obviously, don't have a rig hooked up to this, but you can see that the user interface will run. It does everything that the desktop application has. It's got support for your macros. You can change your modes, etc. on that. So I'm going to quit out of this. And I'm just going to leave it at WSJTX. We'll keep the demo nice and short here because I don't want to run over my 5 minutes. This is an older version, 2.0.1. The new version, 2.1, haven't gotten around to loading it on here yet. That supports FT4. And basically, it's the same interface you see on the desktop computer, except for this is on a $35 Raspberry Pi. You can install some of the software for packages. Some of the newer things you actually have to compile, and there are special procedures for doing that, but it's just, it's a really low-cost alternative to a ham shack computer. One of the other nice things I want to point out about this is that it's got some software called VNC installed on it. It's actually remote control, kind of like remote desktop on Windows. You can run a VNC client on another computer and then basically see the screen and control the mouse and keyboard from a remote location. So you can have your Raspberry Pi in the ham shack, and you can be in your living room or your den or wherever else and control your FT8 or control your FL Digi or whatever remotely. Anyway, thank you very much.
I only had one question on this one for these guys up here. How many hams does it take to make a pie?
Keep your fingers out.
That's easy. What do you think about this tonight? I think this is, Kyle, when did we start this?
Oh gosh, 2007, 2008?
Okay, so we've had one of these every October for around 10 years or so. And we've really seen some great projects. Our unofficial panel of experts really kind of unofficially voted, with no grand prize possible, voted Kevin's Homebrew tuner as the best homebrew in this. Even though we had some great projects over here, I really like the telegraph line, demonstrating that, and obviously kids go for that as well. Any comments on or questions on tonight's presenters? Once we close, everybody's display can kind of hang around and you can drop by and ask questions. But any questions you want to ask for a group?
Did Joe build that or did you buy it? That roller thing?
Joe, did you build or buy that?
Lengths of rebar come in certain lengths. I bent this around a tree, because I don't have a bar bender, two different portions of the tree. And don't inspect my welding, it's not meant to be aesthetically pleasing.
And it was not a round tree either, was it?
All right, any final comments or questions tonight? Mark?
Just one, it's these things like the Go Box. You can go out and you can buy like the radio mounts from You're gonna pay $30. Don't do that. Just go down to Lowe's or Home Depot. Go back into the hardware part, like for example, where they have the roof rafters and the metal pieces for that. And you can fabricate your own radio mounts. I mean, take a look at mine when you get up there. You'll see that there's only one actual commercial radio mount, and it's because it came with the Yaesu FT400 XDR. So you can be very innovative and keep your costs down.
Yeah, my cost was real cheap on my little fabricated piece that holds my Chinese power supply, and it only took me 3 days of fabricating to do it.